Hey guys, welcome to another great day. Listen, our passage today comes from Mark chapter 10, verses 35 through 45. We're continuing this week in our Build series as we're looking for our main passage from Matthew chapter 5 at how we can love the unlovable, forgive the unforgivable, and serve the unserveable. And so what we find in this passage in Mark chapter 10 is a conversation, a scene where Jesus is with the disciples and the sons of Zebedee, James and John, their two brothers. They asked Jesus that they could sit at his right and his left hand when he ascends to the kingdom. When he gets to his throne, they want to sit on one side, each of them on one side of the other. They begin this conversation of honor and of greatness. And this goes on, and the other disciples start to kind of get upset and angry with James and John. There's this scuffle going on. And then in that moment, Jesus, as a great teacher, uses that as a teachable moment. He begins to teach about greatness, and what he says is remarkable. What he says in verse 43 and following, he says that if any of you wishes to become great, that he must become a slave of all, that if any of them want to be first, then they must be a slave of everyone. For he says in verse 45, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. As we come to the close of this week, if we want to live a life that allows us to serve the unservable, we must realize that our lives, our status, our accomplishments, our capabilities, our abilities, that all of those things are to be set to the side. That we can't, because of our status, use that as an excuse to be served, or even use that as an entitlement to be served. Because I come from a certain part of town, because I've done these things in life, because I have this type of a following, because I've done X, Y, Z, I'm entitled to being served because I'm so great, I have such status. We can't let our status entitle us to being served, but instead, we must be served to gain our status. You see, we must become servants, slaves, lift people up as if they were a VIP and we were their living maid, even though we're really not. You see, we are to let our status come from being servants, not let us ourselves be served because of our status. So this week and even today, I want to challenge you to check yourself, to look through and examine, is there an area in your life where you feel like because of your education, because of your job, because of your skill set, because of who you're married to, because of anything really, because of something, fill in the blank, that you are entitled to being served? Or instead, are you setting aside all of those things that could give you status? Setting those aside and saying, because Jesus Christ modeled it, and I want to live my life like he does, I want to go and serve as he served, and even serve the unservable. You know, it's interesting that it was even Judas who had come to betray him. Jesus served at the Last Supper, served a meal, even to the one who would betray him. You see, that's setting aside status as God and living a life of servant to serve even what some might consider the unservable. So my challenge for you today is to go out and to serve the unservable, to set your status aside and to serve so that you may gain a status in heaven, one that can never be taken away. And when we do that, we'll find not only will we one day have a great reward, but we'll live the blessed life now because we're living as Jesus was. I love you guys. Our memory verse this week, Matthew chapter 5, verse 41. Memorize it, read it, live it out, own it, and go change the world. I love you guys. We'll talk to you next week.